aspect. And some of our Slack channel members, in addition to some people just who are fans of the Bills in general, fans of football, fans of the show, clamored for Curtis Samuel this entire offseason. He was a name that I saw for so many people being like, Curtis Samuel, Curtis Samuel, Curtis Samuel. Like he played under Joe Brady, Curtis Samuel, Curtis Samuel. And it was like, the cost probably isn't going to match up. We'll see what could happen. We talked here on the show potentially wanting more money given towards more of a true X in terms of play style and frame and size. But lo and behold, Curtis Samuel comes to the Buffalo Bills on, when it's all said and done, a pretty affordable deal with a 3-year, $24 million contract coming in with the Bills, 6.9 signing bonus, $15 million guaranteed, but an AAV of $8 million for somebody who brings an athleticism and speed dynamic to this receiver group that wasn't really present completely in one player with how he plays. This is a very interesting signing given how he's been used, what he's capable of, his ties to Joe Brady, and then how he fits in this Bills receiver room that already has some established roles present on it.
Yeah, there's so many like connections to Samuel, whether you're talking Brady, Bean scouting him and kind of evaluating him when he was still in Carolina.
Oh, I forgot about that. Good call.
Yeah. And, even just things like you said, how he's been used, he's been primarily a slot player. And even more so in 2020 when he was with the Panthers and Joe Brady, he played primarily in the slot, but he does have that versatility, as you can see on the screen. And it's something, again, we talked about at the top, whether you're talking alignment, whether slot, out wide, in the backfield, but also, the different types of roles you can play. He has the speed to get vertical. Has he done that a bunch in his career? No. He can be that guy that gets the ball underneath in the short A-dot type throws that gets run after catch and can break some tackles because he has that natural ability to break tackles because of that running back background. And he's explosive. He's very fast. I think in 2020, I think it was under Brady, he had a 23.7% explosive rate when Brady was his coordinator. That was number one over the last 4 years, which, Anthony, we did a whole episode on that a little while ago about, explosive percentage and the Bills needing to be better in that. Look at this. Last year in 2023, that is 7.5% explosive dropback percentage. If you look at the wide receiver position, they were 20th overall and 30th when you're talking the wide receiver position in explosives per dropback. So adding a guy like Samuel could definitely boost, their explosive plays. And he can do that again from the backfield in different alignments in matching up versus linebackers on option routes, rail routes, wheel routes, but also, again, in the slot, out wide. He can do a little bit of everything. He's going to be a very nice tool and chess piece to have for Brady.
Yeah, and in that season under Joe Brady in 2020, you have it highlighted there in blue for his alignment rates. And some of the advanced metrics for that year were legitimately really impressive. There were 87 qualifying wide receivers that season in 2020. Out of those 87 qualifying receivers, Curtis Samuel was 23rd in EPA per target, 21st in yards per route run, 7th in on-target catch percentage, tied for 30th in yards per target, 25th in rating when targeted. And then here's some interesting ones too to kind of tie into his usage. He was 80th in average depth of target at 7.1 and 68th in average depth of catch at 6.6. So despite being like a speed guy, Brady was using him underneath and using him to create mismatches at that second level against linebackers, slot guys, some safeties. And it's interesting to see what he really will be with this version of Joe Brady, with this Bills offense. Because again, like we talked about, like he just brings an athleticism and speed element that in one package hasn't been present in this grouping. He doesn't have the precision from a route running standpoint like a Diggs or even like a Khalil Shakir. But when you see him work, he understands spacing, he understands leverage, but it's all packaged into this 4.3 type of frame and body type, and that works in different ways, in gadget ways, but true on the line receiver ways. Like you said, that chess piece, I think he's a guy who, not to kind of pass the buck, I think he's a guy where it's really the onus is on your coordinator or play caller to take advantage of the skill set that he has to maximize his value.
And I think that's how, we outlined and showed that Brady is able to do that. We saw Brady completely change when you're talking the offense last year, when you're talking from the sense or perspective of yards after the catch. They were ranked like 25th in YAC with Dorsey. And then as soon as Brady took over, they went to 8th. They were top 10 in yards after a catch, after a catch per reception. So that's the type of offense that we did a whole episode on it. That's the type of
Yeah,
offense
no,
Brady, came up under, whether you're talking in Carolina as a coordinator, but also to his time back in New Orleans. And I agree with you. I don't think his route running is crisp, but when he
mm,
adds that nuance to the route, it's explosive, it's
mhm,
sudden, and it
mhm.
creates separation. That's why he had, really good separation metrics over the course of the last few years. And he does, Justin said it, he gets separation. He does. And we're going to show you. Let's get to some of this film before we run out of time, because we have like 15 or 16 clips. And one way that Brady got explosive plays, back in Carolina, were on play action plays, especially from under center. And man, this is one of our favorite plays over the years
Mhm.
from Dable's days. Wave concept, double post X cross. So you get the double post here, and then you just get that X cross across the middle of the field right here by Samuel. And so play action under center. We want to see more from Josh Allen and Joe Brady when it comes to this. And I think Samuel is going to add in that department when you're talking these deep crossing routes that have been missing since
Yes.
John Brown and Cole Beasley left on this wave concept. He has that speed to separate, especially on these crossers, which, Anthony, we know Josh loves throwing these deep crosses, as opposed to throwing just a straight post, which he struggled with the last year.
Absolutely. This is one of this one. I feel like the deep crosser and the sail route are like arguably like his two favorite throws that he loves to hit, and he hits them repeatedly. And what I like about this clip here is it shows two things with Curtis Samuel. It shows his ability to, shows that speed to get across field and have some of that separation. But yeah, look at the athleticism at the catch point. This is a really hard catch. His momentum is carrying him away from where this throw is. His momentum is carrying him to the sideline. This is thrown behind him, and it's thrown behind him and upfield. So he has to plant, pivot, extend backwards while falling away. Like, that's just a super hard catch. Like, look at the bounce off the ground because he
Yeah.
hit so hard. Like, the ability to pluck that with his fingertips, really soft hands, and then the body control to bring it in. Roy, to answer your question, yes, that is Teddy
Yes.
Bridgewater throwing it to him there. Just the body control and the athleticism in the hands to bring that in, maintain the catch throughout. That's also part of that element, right? It's not just pure speed; it's that athleticism that he bakes in as well.
Yeah, 100%, man. And being a team that sees man coverage the number one, they saw man coverage, I think, was 33% of the time last year.
Correct.
That was number one in the league. Getting a guy with this explosiveness, with this ability to separate, you see it here in the low red zone. Watch how he explodes out of the route stem, gets vertical, uses his eyes, and then breaks to the middle of the field after getting his eyes to the quarterback. That type of separation versus man coverage has been needed the last couple of years. Again, we always liken back to the Cole Beasley, John Brown days, but that's when the Bills shifted their philosophy and said, you know what, we need to get quick guys, we need to get separators, and Samuel hopefully will bring that to Buffalo.
Yeah, and this was a nice one too. Like, I like the deception that he creates off the line, but you just see once he puts that foot in the ground, the burst, the explosion, and it's nice too. I want to bring back I remember putting out that tweet, the one highlight of AD Mitchell from a couple weeks ago, and you quote tweeted because I mentioned how he was explosive, and you
Mhm.
talked about how you can be explosive with a speed element, but explosive in terms of like power. And
Yeah.
that's what you kind of see in that step there from Samuel. Though he does have that speed, you just see that power, that burst, that explosion once he pushes off that leg. And I think a lot of it too is tied to that size and frame. Like, being a guy who can run a 4.3, and he's also quick in short areas, but he's 5'11, 195. Like, this is almost a dude who's a 200-pound dude in an under 6 foot body. Like, he's compact, he's thicker, and he's fast on top of it. And when you see that type of movement, it's that force added, almost like a force multiplier to the speed. He's got a lot of power in his steps.
Right. And speaking of steps, look at this
Oof,
power and change of
filthy.
direction. Again, yak underneath, just a simple route underneath that hook to curl zone. Looks like he's going to go up the middle versus these two defenders, but watch him change direction, put his hand down, use that balance, and cut back to get some yards after the catch and get upfield. So, very good change of direction and athleticism on this play against the Jags.
I love this one too because initially it's just like, okay, let me find the space. Like, it's, I'm not saying this negatively, but like the initial route is just so like, la la la, here's the space, let me sit. And it's like he gets activated as soon as he gets the ball in his hands. He gets upfield, and look at the body lean, like how he's almost, I don't know what angles, like a 45-degree angle. Like once he puts his feet in the ground and has to use his left hand to balance, like he's getting low. You're seeing some lower body flexion. And then again, it's the pop once he comes out of it, right? Like look at the lateral agility, then the ability to get upfield. And again, at that size, once he's in the open field, he's got the athleticism to get away from some second level defenders, but he's also got the size to kind of get through corners and DBs a bit. It's just a really interesting package that he brings.
Yeah, and so again, these are clips from the Commanders, but you saw that deep crossing route off of play action when he was with Brady and the Panthers. Single high safety look, and again, those crossing routes with that speed and ability to separate, that's always a threat with him. And I want you to watch how he uses that to his advantage against Kenny Moore, the one of the better nickel defenders in the league. So again, he's selling that crossing route right there. You see Kenny open up to the player, and then watch him snap that off, throw him by, and run that sail type concept, that 3-level concept out to the boundary. That is separation. That is explosiveness against a very good corner.
Yeah, one of the best, like you said, one of the best nickel corners in the league. Like we somehow find a way, like every episode, to talk about like Kenny Moore, Taron Johnson, and Mike Hilton as being like the three best like nickel corners. We talk about it all the time. You see this route from him a bunch. He does this against Dallas on Thanksgiving last year, and you see the explosion, you see the athleticism, the burst, but it's also some of that ability to sell, like that ability to make it seem like you said, like, oh, hey, here comes that deep over. Like, watch me sell it with my eyes and body language.
Mhm.
I'm getting upfield. Like, look where he's looking, look where he's leaning. And Kenny Moore is playing on that upfield shoulder. So he's reading, okay, cool. Here comes the deep over. I'm over the top on it. And then Samuel just puts his feet in the ground. I like the hand usage to clear himself through contact. So again, a nice little mix of some technique, but all stemming from, again, and not to sell short the deception and the nuance that he has there with the stem and what he sells initially on the over, but it's all coming within that package of athleticism, speed, burst, explosion, and element that we have been clamoring for in this offense.
Yeah, similar type route here against the Giants. Again, stemming inside just a little bit, then speed vertical, and then boom, snaps it off outside after peeking inside. Again, just nuance, and you have to slow it down. Okay, so you see the hezzy release, little stab inside, gets that defender kind of on his heels, and then opening up. And then right here, look at him peek inside, and then snap it off, and then he's got the first down there against the Giants.
This one is really beautiful from a route running perspective, like understanding how to manipulate coverage. And again, what does it come against? It comes against man coverage. Like this is an example of him
2-man
separating.
too, right?
Yes.
That's with all the multitude of an array of too high safety looks and how that minimizes explosives. What do they get here? They get an explosive.
Getting explosive. And this is such a dangerous piece to have when you have a guy who can win inside like this, or even potentially outside. But two-man has become such a prominent aspect, really starting in college, of like teams
Hmm.
trying to squeeze down that airspace and squeeze windows and availability on third downs, and especially known passing situations. We saw the Bills use it a bunch down the stretch, including that week 18 game against Miami. And Samuel just makes this look easy. Like this creates some doubt in a defense's mind. And it's really nice when you have a guy who creates a doubt, that kind of doubt in a defense's mind, and it's not Dalton Kincaid or Stephon Diggs. Like it's potentially the third option.
Right. And Anthony, I love this play. You're saying creating doubt. Here's a quarters type coverage. So again, a coverage that is meant to minimize big plays down the field. He gets matched up on the safety. And this might be
Mm,
one of my favorite routes from him because this is one of those cover 4 looks where he's getting deep. And you can see because of him stemming inside, the safety overtakes it. And again, this is supposed to minimize big plays. And look at him come out of that break after that tempo and speed change at the top of the route, man. This is beautiful stuff from him from the wide alignment. So people are going
yes.
to ask, like, can he play outside? Yeah, you can see that, especially when you play those kind of teams or coverages that want to, take that shell and play it deep so that you can't get those explosive plays. Well, Samuel can get it in a multitude of ways.
And this is a common thing, like you said, because of how he stems this route, he gets matched up on the safety, and you'll see that in those quarters looks like against a multitude of teams who play it. Like the Chiefs do it at times, and I mean the Bills do it at times. You see Baltimore do it, and you've got a guy who knows how to work in that space. And like you said, it's just the way how quickly he gets out of this break. Like he turns and leans, and so to Sean Gibson, that safety, he thinks, okay, the route's coming inside. But it's not just that he fooled Gibson. It's how quickly he gets out of that break that Gibson doesn't have any time to adjust. Like Gibson is still driving
Right.
on that route, and Samuel's already heading to daylight to that open grass that you highlighted right there.
A
Just
better
again,
throw. This is a touchdown, isn't
bro,
it?
I was thinking the same thing. If he just puts that ball out in front of him a little bit more, that's an easy coast to the sideline. Lenore, number 38, I don't think is going to beat him to the pylon. Instead, the ball gets put on his inside shoulder, and it gives Gibson a chance to kind of make up for getting beat on that coverage. But
Yeah.
that's a really good route, and with a better throw, an easy touchdown.
Here's another play with him as an X, 3-by-1 set, isolated to the bottom of the screen, and watch how he adjusts. So he's peeking inside and then running kind of like what the Bills used to call a deep V under Dable. I used to run this a ton with Robert Foster, where he peeks inside, makes it look like he's running across her, and then just runs that deep V out to the corner. But because of the coverage, the way it unfolds, he's not going to get that corner because you have a corner here that's going to drop, and then you have Jesse Bates right here, and then a linebacker underneath. So what's he do? He kind of throttles down, gets his eyes to his quarterback. Quarterback reads it, and they're able to complete it in the hole.
And also a good catch, too. Like little bit on that inside shoulder where he has to adjust his body. You see another example of him making kind of an off frame type of catch. And we know how much Josh Allen likes guys who can make those off frame catches, likes
Yeah,
guys who can separate. So those are two boxes that Samuel also ticks, in addition to the dynamic that he adds to the receiver room. Again, and what's also nice too, like you highlighted on the previous clip, another example of him working from more of an outside alignment. We've heard so much from people, and granted, we've started some of this conversation, but the need for that boundary receiver and the
sure.
need for that X, despite how much he's been used in the slot, you can have him work in that outside alignment as you do on this play against Bland. And this is the one I was
That
talking about earlier,
speed, man.
similar to that route
Hmm.
we looked at several plays ago. This one is just gorgeous.
Yeah, here's another one. Again, you have the
Oof.
the DBs dropping back, and that explosiveness and the ability to make that turn on the big V route right here, to make the turn right there and not lose speed. That type of explosiveness and strength, that leg strength, you're seeing that, on the film here. That ability to not lose speed on that break. It's more of a speed break, but he makes that turn, and that separation gets locked in on Bland.
This one reminds me of like when you're taught how to drive a car, like you're supposed to speed, like you're supposed to pick up speed through like the apex of the
Apex,
turn. Yes.
apex. Yep.
And that's what this is. Like he is picking up speed through like the apex of the turn for this is when he's on that break. And exactly like you said, like Bland is trying to get his feet as he basically gets crossed up like a point guard here. Like Samuel puts it between the legs and drives the paint, and Bland falls all over himself here. But like you said, it's that leg strength and it's the speed. Samuel is picking up speed through that break. He's changing that pace. Like he sells inside with eyes and body language. He also looks back to the quarterback too, which I think is a nice little sell piece as well, as he kind of fakes that over, puts his foot in the ground, and then you see that acceleration through the break.
Yeah.
He accelerates through the apex of that turn, and that's when he completes that separation and just loses his man.
And this is where it gets fun with him. You can put him in the backfield. And we saw the Bills do this a bunch with James Cook. And so having a guy like Samuel, you can add that into the wrinkles the offense can run. You can run these type of option routes. Look at the awareness, though. He sees this defensive end kind of playing that dog technique where he wants to get a piece of him to not let him flare out cleanly and kind of interrupt and to mess up the timing of that play. He gets inside of that guy, and now he snaps off that Texas route over the middle. Again, just a nice piece to have when you're talking the tools for the offensive coordinator with Joe Brady, in Buffalo, kind of running things now.
And this goes back to the graphic you first showed when we brought up Samuel, like those alignment rates. And I hope people weren't too much into just like, oh, slot and wide. Like we showed those backfield align reps as well. And this goes back to his time at Ohio State, like his ability to
Hmm.
kind of work out of the backfield as that third down scat back, as a type of gadget player. And he runs this route so well. He does it again in that Dallas game against Thanksgiving. You see it here, like his ability to run this angle route out of the backfield. And this is pure mismatch. Like then you're getting into
Yeah.
really fun territory because who's covering Curtis Samuel out of the backfield? And we've seen the Bills do it at times with Stephon Diggs out of the backfield. This is just another element, another alignment. And two, like if they really wanted, you could hand the ball off to Curtis Samuel and let him
Oh,
run it.
we'll get to
But
that. We'll
yeah,
get to
exactly. And
that.
this is a nice little work off of it. I feel bad that Baker gets hurt on this one, but what did we just see? We saw that angle route on the previous rep. Look at what he does here when he releases out of the backfield on this rail route. Boom, this little hesitation right here that causes Baker to kind of slow down and hesitate, thinking, uh-oh, is he going to go inside? And once Samuel does that, that mismatch really takes over. He accelerates, he separates, gets up the sideline, and makes a great play.
Yeah, again, that's going to be fun to watch what they do with him. And this play, it's similar. He's in the backfield. Watch this split flow. Tell me and alert me when you recognize this play. Little play action and a throw up the seam. I mean, this play looks really familiar, Anthony.
Against Kansas City this
Yeah,
past
maybe
year.
Kansas City and James Cook. I mean, look at that throw from the backfield alignment there. It almost reminds me of this play from the Kansas City game when Joe Brady was a coordinator.
I
James
feel
Cook up
bad
the
though on this
seam.
one though now because Mike Edwards is the safety, go
Yeah,
screaming down
he
for
is, yeah.
Sherfield who gets beat. So now I'm like, crap.
Yeah, so he's going down to take
Yeah.
the flats there. And it's kind of feathered up over the top of Bolton. So fun stuff, man. Like fun stuff that you can do with Samuel. And I think in many ways, if James Cook is out, he needs a blow, and it's like a passing down or a critical situation, they could easily fill in Samuel in the backfield if they need a receiving type option. Now, if they need more of a physical type option, they go to Ty Johnson or maybe some other running back that they bring in. But I think he does add running back to receiving back ability when you're talking, again, the depth chart in the running back position. And also, you said it, Ant, you can do what? You can hand it off to him. Here's some reps from 2020 under Brady. Outside zone run. You see the elusiveness right there to break that tackle and get that explosive run. So this is a true threat. Teams can't just be like, you know what? No, it's going to be a pass. They can hand it to him, and he has the speed to get the perimeter.
This is a real run. This isn't like a gimmicked up, like gadgety type of run. This is straight up. He's in the backfield. You're running outside zone to away from the tight end. Like actually, this is weak side zone like all day. Ooh, shout out to DJ. Man, the Panthers had some really good
Has some
dudes
talent.
at times, and they just could not put it together. This is a real run. This is a traditional running run. This isn't, like I said, gimmicked up. This isn't a jet sweep or some type of thing. This is him lined up at running back, running outside zone, putting a move on the corner. And then also look at the way he finishes using that size. Like we said, 5'11, 195 pounds. He's got that size and frame. He doesn't shy away from contact and he plays through it against, DBs, both corners and safeties. This is also an interesting piece too when we talk about roster construction and we talk about value and versatility. Like, does this change what the Bills want to do on game day when it comes to running back? Because you've got James Cook and you've got Ty Johnson, and then you've also got Curtis Samuel as maybe like your RB3 potentially on game days, in addition to being like a target or option 3 or 4 on the day. Like now you can potentially get creative with your roster management on game days in terms of who you add and where you're filling in because you've got this versatile piece that can work in a multitude of ways. Again, another real run on this one here for Washington against the Giants.
Yeah, the last one was a zone run, outside zone run. This is more of a counter trade gap run and just a footwork and patience right here. Again, running back type movements and elusiveness and footwork. It just it's going to be interesting to see, as you said, from a roster standpoint, but also from a schematic standpoint. It opens things up for the Bills when you're talking versatility, moving guys around and putting guys at different positions. He's going to be a really fun piece to have. I agree. I think a lot of people immediately made that connection with him and Joe Brady and the Panthers and all that stuff early on in free agency. But the money we didn't think would fit, under the Bills, salary cap at the time. But with all the moves they made, and as free agency went forward and progressed, that number it seemed to lower a little bit more. And for what they got him and what he brings, I think it was typically when you're signing wide receivers in free agency, you're usually going to lose the end of the bargain or lack thereof.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get your money's worth with a guy like Samuel as long as he stays healthy because of the versatility when you're talking alignments, but also what you can do with him from different roles in an offense. He adds a lot. He packs a punch, and he can get those explosive plays with minimal touches.
Yeah, and again, it's all tied into that the size and the frame and the skill set, and it comes together to make him that chess piece, like you said, and you can move him all over and use him in a variety of ways in a multitude of roles. And to get that for 3 years and $24 million with 15 guaranteed is a pretty good deal. And even when you look at like the breakdown of his contract in year 3 of it, so that 2026 season, he's got a dead cap hit of only $3.4 million and a post June 1st release or post June 1st trade savings of $8 million. So really it's a 3-year 24, but it could potentially be a 2-year deal.
Mhm.
And again, I just think it's worth it for what his skill set invites, for what it brings. And you have to think, yeah, I think you also have to, not to put the or the hope too high, but you have to think with Joe Brady already having coached him, like he advocated for this move, he wanted it. So you have to think like there's already a strong usage potential or creativity potential, knowing how familiar Brady is with him and bringing him into this squad to kind of potentially rekindle some things.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see. I'm kind of bummed that the season is so far away because these are the
Hmm.
type of things, the possibilities, when you're talking personnel and scheme and what could be, what they could cook up with a guy like Samuel is just something that is exciting to think about. But the draft is still obviously ahead, and as far as the impact of him, I still think we're talking boundary guys. I think boundary guy is still on the docket, and I don't think the signing precludes them from going and getting a guy like that, and it doesn't preclude them early getting a guy like that early. So that is something to keep in mind. I don't think that really, again, draft doesn't impact the draft much. We